Hello, everybody. Welcome to ETHT TV. This is EJ Rikina. I hope everyone is doing all right. Maayong buntag, maayong hapon, maayong gabi, whatever time you're watching this video. So, as you can see, our stream right now, our video is a bit different. So, we're actually doing a stream recording, or we're not streaming, but this is actually a recording because in a few minutes we will be joined by another person in this discussion. So you've seen the topic, and that's precisely the reason why you're here. We will be talking about Japan, and we are creating this avenue for all the hungry travelers out there, specifically those Cebuanos. So at least this gives you more idea, more background of Japan, coming from a person who is staying there for more than for a long time. We'll get to know his story, and we'll get to ask him about all the fun stuff about Japan, what to expect, what to do, where to eat, where to visit, and all those things that are very important in the event that, or as soon as we visit Japan when we end COVID-19. Okay, so I'm not gonna talk so much now. I'm just gonna bring him over. So please give a big round of applause, or imagination round of applause, to my buddy Mark. And we are live.
Cool. Howdy, Erik.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
Pretty good so far.
So first of all, to know that you've been busy. Everybody's been busy with everything that's happening. So it's really something that I am very happy, and I'm just very honored that you're allowed me to give a bit of your time for this discussion. Anyways, sorry, go ahead.
It's actually an honor for you to actually approach me first, from all the people you know. It's like
Lagi. But no, I mean, you're one of the, like what I said in the intro, we've been friends for 32 years, and you're in Japan, and that's where I really want to go, and we can't do that. I can't do that with COVID currently showing in all cinemas all over the world, diba?
Unlimited screening.
Lagi. So anyways, so Mark, I actually know you. I already know you, and I could tell all my viewers about who you are. But of course, this is an interview. So before we go through the fun part of this discussion, why don't you tell everybody about yourself? How long have you been in Japan, and what are you currently doing there?
Okay, so I'm Mark, childhood friend with Erik, and I've been in Japan for 6 years and probably 3 months already. Then here in Japan, I actually work as a software development engineer in test, or software test engineer, or QA engineer. Mga name, I mean, they just normalized the one job title. So yeah, for a tech company here in Japan. So I guess this company was actually one that got me in Japan in the first place. It's just kind of funny, because at first I thought when they approached me if I was interested in Japan, I was like, wala biti mawaan ako if I got this job. I was actually happy with my previous company. Then I suddenly got this chance, then eventually passed everything in flying colors. So I started here November 4, 2014, and been here since. And I guess apart from spring, been loving Japan ever since.
Apart from spring, we'll tackle that in the questions. Okay, I have some questions over in my notes right here about what's the best time to actually visit Japan. And I've been hearing that spring, winter, and you just mentioned spring, that it's the least of your favorite time in Japan. So we'll tackle that in the later discussions. But Mark, what I just noticed about what you mentioned is you were there because of work. But naka-work na sa Academy sa Cebu for how many years before you went to Japan?
So I graduate ko sa Cebu 2009. Then I worked in Cebu for 5 years until 2014. Then when itong my job opportunity here in Japan.
Mm.
And aside from that, just after college, um, my older brother, which is actually classmates at Simong oldest brother.
I know. See, 6 degrees of separation. That's why
Uh,
siya first na biktima sa guesting.
yeah. So pag graduate na ako pag college, before actually working, we had a family trip here in Japan since nagawa na akong eldest brother there. Then I actually quite like living here, even though like first time in Nico, I barely know anything about the language.
Mhm.
Hey, I mean, aside from Japanese, okay ata if like they're using alphabet, but they're not using alphabet.
Yes,
So that
correct.
aside from that, like it was generally safe. Then like the transportation was pretty good, so that's why like I liked it here. Then ever since that time, I've been like having this like drive to somehow I should be able to also be able to work in Japan eventually. Then 5 years after that, like I actually got the opportunity.
So that's really nice, no? Like for everybody who is watching, guys, there is really a good opportunity if you just pursue that. If you just pursue your dreams, like what
Mm.
Mark said, na he had a hard time in terms of transitioning, I guess. Kay it's very different. They had the hiragana, katakana mo man ano, 'di ba? Ang mga
Yeah.
ilahang mga their alphabets. It's not in English. Everything is not in English. And speaking of that, why don't we just go to the next question? How is life in Japan when you transferred? What were the things that were very challenging? And I know language would be definitely one of them, but in terms of the culture, could you just give us like an overview of how Japanese people live their lives and how were you able to adapt? What were the things that you did in order for you to adapt fully to the culture of Japan?
Well, I guess Japanese are actually in a way contradicting because um, one they think of people first, other people first before themselves, but at the same time they also think that they shouldn't meddle in other people's situation. So di ba na contradict na siya?
Yeah. Um,
But like in some cases too, like if kita dun sila like nagkalisod ka, kaya like mutabang niya sa mo. I mean,
mhm.
I guess it's apparent in I guess all countries in the world. If magkalisod ka, mutabang jud. Pero sa Japan is more like, um, I guess the smallest things, like for example, labay o basura.
Mhm.
Ang ilang una is like if mo labay og basura dire, nailain tao nalain mo punit ani, nya mahasol nun siya.
Mm.
Or nagbutang kog kanang coke can dire, wano gilabay tarong, what if na aksidente, matumbang coke can, yan ay makatunog na aksidente. That's sort of like
Oh.
mindset ba?
Mm.
Ang karon gikuan sa mga Japanese. That's I guess one of the things na most nang like sayo adjust there because one, when I was looking for an apartment, my Japanese was like barely zero or barely one. So real estate agent was actually had to like think through my mindset of how am I going to find an apartment na ako
Mhm.
speak Japanese.
Mhm.
So they were really helpful for me. So when I'm
Oh.
like, it's the culture that made it easier for me to transition.
So could you say na the culture of Japan is more or less similar sa Philippine culture?
It's more like, I guess, more or less the same like Asian cultures.
Mm, okay.
Like most Asian cultures, like are very helpful to
Mhm.
people, especially like if makaibaw din na mga tao na galisod man ni siya ato yung tabang.
Mhm.
At the same time lang kay Japan as Japan, even historically speaking, like they've never been really open outside
Mhm.
of the world. That's one of the reasons why na di sige sila mo mind, especially foreigner ka,
Mhm.
because like um sort of like mahadlok sila if they make a mistake, nga kanang like masamot na ng problema. So
Okay.
that's why
So I
like
guess yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
So more na like it's kind of like similar in terms of like I mean even sa Philippines like magkalisod ka, naman dyan matabang nimo. But at the
Correct.
same time, ang good, like, di man siya sort of like contradicting in a way na nasa usahay sa Pinoy jud na kanang kabantay kanang even though dili problema nimo ganahan jud ka makibaw sa problema sa banta.
Ano siyang, our natural Wi-Fi.
Dire kay kan as long kan mutabang na sa kadiyot pero di na sila labot sa imong problema.
So they meddle in your business, but they don't like see through it na, uy, nahuman na ba ni siya or unsa man, kumusta na ba? As long as from their perspective, they did their part in helping you, you do the rest.
Yep. Short-term meddling.
Bitaw no. Na short-term and long-term meddling. So in terms of being a tourist there, if kanang as soon as all the COVID is wala na COVID and all, from somebody like, for example, I had like 6 units of Nihongo in like college, but I've already forgotten about it. But for somebody na who can afford, who can visit Japan but has no idea of the language, would it be very challenging for this person to visit Japan? Or like what you said, would that also translate na if you approach Japanese people, they would readily help you even if they don't know English?
It actually depends on which area. Asa kapadong, like for example, if adto ka sa major parts of Tokyo, like sa city proper, like somewhere in Tokyo, Shibuya, Shinjuku, may nga ng lugar, most of the time, like they can understand English. But if you go outside, so basically, like there's inner major Tokyo, then there's also like Tokyo na nasa edges, but they're still part of the greater Tokyo area. If mo ka ng mga lugar kana kay a bit harder kay some of them in some cases, like if nakiganahan adtuon sa kalugar, there are actually other places here in Japan that are all called already ghost towns. Because kasagaran mga residents sa town kay either tiguang na or nangamatay na or ang ilang anak kay nang hawa na lugar. So if madto ka na may anong lugar, because there's some, I don't know, if you're into shrines or something, nanangat madto ka maglisod na sa tabang. But even though like they can't speak the language, I mean, there's already Google Translate to help you with that, compared to like 5 years ago, which is di mo kay gamit ng Google Translate pa.
So and I'm, because you mentioned Google Translate, I'm curious, is the Wi-Fi there something na public, or do you have to like para sa Philippines you have to buy a SIM and have it connected with have your network connected with the network in Japan?
That's actually a good question, which is actually yes and no. Because in some areas, especially like major train stations sa Tokyo, there's actually public Wi-Fi, but only if tourist ka.
So how do you
only tourist ka? But at the same time too, like since like daghan man kay mo access if tourist ka, like let's say mo adto kag Shibuya nga adto na ka sa Shibuya station, daghan kay tourist dito. So barely kanang di kay kagamit just Wi-Fi. But then again, like mukuha kag mobile Wi-Fi dire na prepaid, which like it's prepaid by meaning like it's dependent on the number of days yung paliton. I remember my cousin coming here, then she got like 32 days na kuan na unlimited Wi-Fi. 35 days. Then yung gibayaran was only like 1,200 pesos for 35 days.
It's very affordable.
And then you can basically get it from anywhere, like as long as my small electronics store, maligig cellphone, and they would sell the like prepaid Wi-Fi or prepaid SIM card and data only.
Well, at least it's reassuring ba na when we go to the Japan, it's not going to be like very challenging. Because the reason why I ask, when I went to Macau like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I did not know na the SIM card for Hong Kong could not be used in Macau. So that was also the challenge for me when I went to Macau na, how do I get through these streets when it's all Chinese or in Portuguese? So it was very challenging. And what I did lang siguro, just to share, was the good thing about Macau is there are a lot of Filipinos. You can just go inside the hotel, and most of the front desk personnel, the security guards, and all those working in the hotel, okay, there's always a Filipino. So that's what I did. I just asked them about, where do I go? How do I go from here to here? How do I access my hotel if I stop here? So it's good to know na I SIM card that you can use, and at the same time a public Wi-Fi in the train stations. And speaking of train stations, I've heard na one of the most complicated railway paths is really in Japan. So how true is that? And if it's really that complicated, how soon or how long were you able to like navigate it perfectly now that you've been there in Japan for 6 years?
Before ko answer, disclaimer lang, like, not all cell phones might work. I mean, not all. They will work dire. Because I guess akong cousin was the biggest example, because ang iyang phone was from Europe, but it uses a different GSM signal, which is wala available sa Japan. So dili mo work yung phone. Luckily, nami extra na phone ato. Kaya mo tayong gigamit.
Is it because of kanang like his or her phone is iPhone, or is it because
kanang dili mo accept sa signals na gi-kuan sa Japan? More na reason. So if you're planning, make sure lang na imong phone actually supports the signals in Japan, because like maybe magsayang kag palit or mag-daak phone niya dili di mo work niya, mahog nang ka mo kuha ka og something or mahuam lang kag phone.
That is if naay kaila, di ba? Yung wala, you're just a tourist, you'd have to shell out some money. Thank you for that tip, no? We can just search that on sa mga kanang cell phones that are kind of sort of are not compatible with the signal or the connection in Japan. So going back to train stations, so how complicated are the railway or the train stations in Japan, Mark?
I guess it's kind of like, it's complicated because there's multiple ways to get into one place. Let's say, for example, akong office, so basically 3 ways I can go there. In Shibuya, there's basically like Yamanote, then in Toshi, Toyoko, Ginza.
Para sa mga din.
Those are like train lines. There's about like 8 train lines going to Shibuya alone. So that's why complicated siya kay daghan ka og choices.
Okay.
But actually that was before going back to Google Maps. So it's easier now. Like you just need to say where are you going to, like maybe at Tokyo Station. Yeah. Basically mo specify lang ka na hasa sa current location. Then Google Maps will basically tell you like what are the different trains that you can actually use to go to Tokyo Station. Imusulti na sila og how much each option would cost, or how much each option would actually take to travel. In some cases, like you might be able to travel like or save 10-15 minutes of travel time, but that's Tokyo. In Osaka, it's a different thing. Because in Osaka, Nai Osaka train line na mo
Osaka. Sorry, I just found it funny.
Osaka train station, which is basically sakto po Osaka train station sa Osaka, na padong sa Universal Studios Japan. This station is basically duha ka platform. They both go to Universal Studios Japan. But if masayop ka og sakay, one will take you 25 minutes. One will only take you to 5 minutes.
What? That's a big difference, huh?
So apparently, like, because rail station or like rail systems at Osaka is a bit different, because multiple train lines use like Osaka scan literal train tracks in gamiton. Pa sa Tokyo, okay, sort of like, I guess, ganang nalahi jud nila tanan. So that's one thing to consider, that like if naka sa Tokyo niya naka-plan mo to Osaka kay there are many stations na nagamit sa Osaka train line. Yeah, train tracks pro dagan na mga train lines.
Okay. All right. Sige, wakay ko ka-G, pero sige lang, kanang, the one thing that I got from your discussion is you need to have a working phone that readily has an internet connection. Okay, that answers all your issues and problems. Naman say, kind of curious. I know, no, I'm not like, Japan is very progressive, but I'm also just very curious about Waze. Is Waze also used there, or naasa mo laing kanang other sa tawag siya directional app that's famous in Japan?
I guess in a way, because I've never driven here in Japan, so we come with Waze, but actually Google Maps tells you basically everything. Like for example, every katong wala pa pandemic, when I go to work, like when I check Google Maps, they would basically tell me that like the train station is currently full at this moment, or like jump pack, or at the same time, like for some weird reason, every time ulit ko gikan sa office, kami ingnan ko sa Google Maps na kuan traffic daw ang driving situation. Traffic situation is very high for driving. I was like, di mo ko mo drive, no mag-suggest man ka.
So, by the way, where are you based, Mark, in Japan? Because you mentioned Shibuya, Osaka, Tokyo.
So I work in Tokyo but live in Yokohama.
Oh, so that's like sa mato mga Cebuano friends out there. Asa unsay comparison ana, how far is Tokyo to Yokohama?
Based on distance, it's I think Talisay to Consolacion.
Ay, layo jud di no? Pero
Talisay to Liloan ba?
Layo gyapon taga kuan. Pero kana siya, you just ride your main transportation is really the train.
Yep. The thing is, there's like I guess that's one of the reasons why like wala kay na concentrated ang mga tao there is Japan, is because the government actually mandated na transportation costs sa employee should be handled by the company.
Like the full transportation cost?
That way. Full transportation costs. So for example, like imong transportation costs, but nasa limits. Okay, for example, like if naka nagpuyo sa Osaka niya, moadto kag Tokyo, di na bayran imong Shinkansen from Osaka. But at the same time, like for example, like ako nagos Yokohama, then ako office as Tokyo, I pay around, I guess 7,000 pesos per month for the transportation cost. But dili na ako magastuhan na, ako ng company magastuhan na, so that ang mga tao dili magpundok sa Tokyo.
So how is that possible? Like the card, like you have your card and then you just present it, or they just kanang reimburse it?
Basically, like for example, first of all, kanang mangutana naman sila sa imong address sa imong company, then like they would ask hasa ka unsay nearest station nimo, then sila yung compute na morning route nimo, then okay. Ihatag na nimo through your sweldo.
Okay. So okay. So transportation allowance, but the good thing about Japan is really it's not a subsidy, it's really a full transportation nimo na full transportation nimo realistically if you go back and forth to your house to the office.
That way dili magpundok mga tao dito sa Tokyo.
Yes. Pero nasa sila limit, no? Like, if you're working in Tokyo, we can't also provide you with this much if you live a bit farther than, like, let's say, Oslo to Cebu City na.
Limit, bro. Not sure pila limit, because nakoy friend na basta kay usay mo take Shinkansen padung sa office. But not all Shinkansen trips niya kay covered the company. Only a few of them are actually covered by the company.
Well, that's really nice, no? Because it's a norm for all the companies pa. So hopefully, no, baka naman Philippines. Anyways, so last two questions for you, Mark. And I guess these are the questions that most of our kanang Cebuanos and those people who are watching us are interested in knowing. Like, first
Mhm.
question is, what are the top five lang siguro, top five kind of must visit attractions in Japan? I know that we've always been talking about Google. You can Google it, pero it's it's different. Man, good. Sometimes people exaggerate or kind of very congested na kayo na area, and there
Mhm.
are like hidden tourist destinations that you feel like are is a must visit. When you're in Japan. And the last, okay, that's the first question, and the next question is the top five must eat food in Japan. So may mga favorite food mo din na you want us to try as soon, dili siya in the event, as soon as we visit Japan in 2022. I-claim dyan na nato.
I guess in regards to kanang sa top five, it
Mhm.
also depends the season. So I
Mhm.
guess let's start
Okay.
with spring.
Mhm.
In spring, I actually forgot the asan ni siya lugar but nakaadto ko once during my first time in Japan pag 2009. So it's in the Kanagawa area,
Mhm.
the area where I live in. Kanang it's nindot siya kuan Sakura. It's basically like a really huge, or not huge, but really long river. Na
Mhm.
more I say two car lanes. It's a road.
Mhm.
Then the river is banked along with cherry blossom trees.
Oh, that's
At
so nice.
some, if like mid sakura season, ang river is basically mo pink. In some cases, people go to Meguro River kay may popular, but
Mhm.
tourist trap man to siya. Ang kani
Sige.
kay sa Kanagawa area, the only thing I remember was like it's called Zenbun Zakura. Ang
Mhm.
kuan like scene niya kasi dagan kay Sakura rivers, Sakura petals sa river. Also like usually I guess Shinjuku Park and
Mhm.
saan yung tawag gani? Usually mga parks are actually really good to go during
Mhm.
spring if you want to like view cherry blossoms. That's
Do they
like
have an entrance ba?
most
Can
parks now.
I sorry. Oh no, so you can just get in there. So
Yeah.
oh,
Some parks like I guess it was the say pa eh? I think wait.
sige.
I
Nakapa-search na noon si Mark. So
see,
people are very interested Jud, when it comes to this one. Okay, of
yeah.
course you want to save, and at the same time you want to have that full experience of Japan.
Yeah. I guess Showa Kenan is the name. So it's
So what?
basically like in West Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 200 pesos for like entrance to the park. I guess because like the park is kanang big, yeah. Gamay sa tao employed to maintain it. That's why you have to pay for the park entrance. For it's, I mean, relatively barato sa mua.
Yeah, 200 is not bad, huh? It's not
No,
bad at all.
it's pretty good because like during spring, aside from like the different sakura, they also plant different types of like flowers like tulips within like spring.
Mm-hmm.
So parks are actually popular places during spring. um i guess for all season, I guess Disney parks are actually Disney, then or either way Disney or USJ parks except for Halloween are
What?
actually good to go during different seasons because na mga kanang seasonal events.
Uh,
Like for example, in summer, Disney and USJ kay kanang wet summer jud na basically kanang sprayan of water.
really?
Which is kind of fun. The last time we had it, kay actually pregnant pa akong wife ato, so nagpakilid lang may dimigan basa. And like what else? Spring also and summer kay kanang there's daghan mga like cheap mga yakiniku places everywhere. Like it's a good season to go if gonna come kaon of yakiniku or Japanese barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And for summer, like summer is basically the cheapest season you can come to Japan. Then
That's
next is winter
that's
because
nice.
like I mean, usa ka reason na no cheap na is one since most companies here in Japan can name like summer vacation, which is like they call it obon, just 5 days now. Like people get out. Most Japanese people get out of Japan. So nang barato ang Japan, kaya they want people to come in and spend money here.
During that time. So you have like a mandatory 5 days for everybody there na they can just they can go out and kanang go to other countries.
5 days.
Kalmaha, right? Mm-hmm.
They kind of good. Yeah, good. I mean, like as far as like of all the countries I've visited or naka-work ko, like Japan probably has like one of the most like pinakadaghan ng holidays in 1 year.
So nara siya kuan sa Pilipinas kay we also have like a lot of holidays and our VL credits, di ba?
And I guess also for all seasons, I guess this is one of probably like the last top 5 places. Dili siya, I guess sort of like a tourist trap gapon pero dili jud kay yung kagabi compared to like the Hachiko Monument to Shibuya. It's basically Ebisu Tower. So it's the next station to Shibuya. During different seasons, can I say different events, but at the same time too, like it's really popular place for kanang filming bito J drama or J movies. If anyone of you mga viewers nakakita sa Hanayori Dango katong Japanese version, na usa ka place ngadto na kanang scene na naghilak si Tsukasa na nag-uwan mo kusog nga na yung stone thingy ngadto. That's the place. It's not a tourist trap nga. They can cheap eats ngadto.
So it's like 2 in 1. It's for those na who love Japanese movies and at the same time who loves food. Dito sila mo ato. Speaking of food, you mentioned about yakiniku. It's everywhere. The Japanese barbecue. That's I guess one thing that we need to try when we visit Japan. What are the other like it's a crime if you visit Japan and you did not try this food when you were there?
Not it's like a restaurant where like we might get like sued by PETA.
Okay.
But anyway, di lang ko
masulti recorded ni siya.
Di lang ko masulti sa unsay food nga to, but like the food itself costs 30,000 pesos for one bowl of katuna food. One serving na 30,000.
Sige, edit lang nato. Unsa siya?
Well, I mean, it's not sort of like censored na Japan is still into whaling, so it has whale meat. That's why like it's expensive. But even then, like akong mentor here in Japan is a ramen aficionado would never try it because it's expensive.
Lagi 30,000. Hello, just for a bowl?
Yep.
Sige, pero that's something. But have you tried it?
No, gabi 30,000. Di kong gastuhan eh. I mean, here it's probably 63,000 or 66,000 yen. Di kong gastuhan eh.
Correct.
Aside from that, like, I mean, everyone knows sushi.
The sushi, kanang we have to try that. Is it really different? Ba naa ba siya difference ang sushi sa Japan or kanang sa Pilipinas? Kanang we could really say na this is better.
Nice slight difference. But I mean, like, if you want to be daring, there's basically like some restaurants that offer the puffer fish.
The puffer fish,
but they remove the poison.
Of course.
So it's kind of funny because during my first month here in Japan, cut way back 2014, it's at like our whole team ate the pufferfish, and like ni comment ang kanang bana sa manager na, are you sure that mukhaan mong pufferfish? I mean, kamura ba sa inyo, sa whole company, sa kamura jud lima ang nag-exist sa whole company. If mamatay mo tanan, wala na mo. Kasi bitaw sa, oh.
But gikaon naman, di ba? And we're still here. 6 years fast forward, we're talking about Japan. Anyways, so I guess siguro, no, kanara, it's really more of the experience pa. You have to try sushi in Japan because this is where it originated. So you have like the bragging rights, but I tried sushi in Japan.
But I guess the thing that's actually different here is ramen. It's actually different here. Nakakaon ng ramen sa Cebu, and I guess it's the standard basic shoyu, shio. So tawag na sa miso base. That's like the standard, and it's like more. And then there's one actually another soup base called it's called say Japanese kalimot ko, sorry ko nakikita ramen, but it's like white tori, it's white chicken based soup, which is actually pretty good. It's like heavy siya ni kaon mo, but once mo nakakaon, it's actually light sa mong stomach.
Okay.
And the flavor isn't really that strong too.
Okay. Usually, like what you said, for those na not familiar, correct me if I'm wrong, the soup base here are kanang beef broth, the soy-based. Sakto ba ko? And that's usually the soup-based ramen manggod here in the Philippines. So that's the first time that I heard of the chicken broth-based ramen, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like, I mean, I guess this one is actually also good. Light in terms of like kabugat niya sa muntian, kay lighter siya, but strong yung flavor, which is fish based.
Okay.
You can smell it.
So it's like it's kanang the ramen there, and I think walang sir kay ko ka-explore din ni Cebu, no, pero if it's edible, it can be made into a ramen.
Sort of.
Anyway, so we have the yakiniku, the ramens. What else? The sushi. 2 more lang siguro for our viewers, Mark, before we close this discussion.
I know, like
how about the sweet.
Sweet.
Something sweet.
I guess keep on forgetting kay di ko fan ani, pero like if available siya kay di man sa di fan, but like di ko tigpalit ani because like ganang sumo siya kadugayan lami siya ni guna. It's like more bitag masi sa to, but it has red bean paste, which is actually pretty good. But dili kay siya nimo you have to savor it na bago pa siyang luto or init pa. Because di man ni mo pwede ma-reheat good, because if you reheat it, red bean paste kay mo gahi og maayo. Nagahi kayo niya, more burnt taste and smell.
So you have to eat it right away.
To actually enjoy it. I guess you can say mochi siya, pero usually the kind of mochi good kay na flavor kanang stuffing or flavor or whatever they use na rice with it. Then lastly, I guess it's kind of a weird thing. Paselya. So it's basically like sliced bread per wapag slice.
That's something that I did not expect and you would say. Pero what makes it kanang a must that you have to try in Japan?
Because actually, bread mangod kay sila nagimo, which is actually pretty good in bread. The toppings is dependent like from store to store, but most of the time, like the bread is always good. Sometimes good kay ang ice cream gigamit kay like everywhere in ice cream. In some cases, like they make the ice cream, the bread, like the other things by themselves, which is actually pretty good.
Mano siya no, mo lang kanindot sa Japan no kay the culture is very rich ba. And at the same time, they're very known for their kanang the food ba na it's taken it takes time, and the process of creating it is really na art ba. There's artistry when it comes to food in Japan.
Yeah, I mean like popular kayo mabitan ng kwan like you've probably seen like restaurants sa movies na kanang I guess kanang makita nimo is like cooking show like kanang cook magluto in front of you kanang
Yes.
nabito na kanang sa Manila kanang ginza.
Oh, or kanang there's also one in kanang Oak Ridge that it's just more or less you can just see it kanang when they prepare the ramen.
Kanang it's like it's parts it makes things more interesting sad ba na mo din na paghimo nila sa ramen so kuan gayo ma-interested kag maayo ng kaon.
Wow. Hi, that makes me more interested and more make me want to visit Japan more soon. For anyways, Mark, I know that I also don't want to take so much of your time. I think we've covered all the things that we need to cover to help our viewers in giving a taste lang, an overview of how life in Japan is, and if ever they visit Japan, what are the items that they need to try, or the food that they need to try, and the places they need to visit. So, Mark, thank you, Kaayo, for again the opportunity to sharing your experience in Japan. Before, like I let you go, do you have anything else to say, like last tips for our audience or viewers? And at the same time, if you want to promote your social media pages or gusto nimo promote, then go ahead, do it now.
Well, I guess last tip is like Japan isn't really expensive in terms of food and transportation. It's more on like same hotel stay cheap mahal, but you can find share houses that are actually cheap where you can stay for like longer that compared to just a hotel like probably 7 nights is probably like maybe maka 7,000 pesos ka within 7 nights compared to hotels, but like yeah it's a shared house no, and so you share the bathroom in terms of food, like if you really want to taste everything Japan has, like you can go to a convenience to like get a glimpse of what the food is, and they're not expensive. That way, like let's say you want to eat sushi, but you don't know like if it's worth it or not to eat the sushi in a really expensive restaurant, you might as well go to like a convenience store like 7-Eleven, Lawson, Family Mart. Just go there, buy sushi, try it. If you like it, then like if maka-decide na ka, if ganahan ka, then yes, you go to like their restaurant.
So at least that's a good tip right there. That's also one thing no, that we need to also check back at the 7-Eleven and the Lawsons and the Family Mart, which I think originated in Japan. It's also a good outlet if you want to like go cheap and just try to experience like it's my usual food in East Japan. Let's go to a convenience store.
Yep.
Anyways, Mark, again, thank you so much. I hope to see you soon. Dinner is on me if you visit Cebu, but if I visit Japan, dinner is on you. But anyway, seriously, thank you, kay Mark. I'm pretty sure our viewers have learned a lot, and we will hopefully this pandemic will be over soon, so that everybody would have the opportunity to visit the places that they want to visit, wherever that is. So again, so guys, thank you so much for watching. Mark, thank you again, and we'll see you around in the coming weeks and days. So the next destinations I'll post on my social media pages, but definitely this is going to be a continuous discussion of course, my friends, and hopefully there are also other people who would be joining this discussion to talk about their country and their experiences in that area. So again, thank you guys for all the love and support. Till next time, goodbye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.